Hi everyone, I'm Kayla, the Millennial Sex and Relationship Therapist and owner of Reclaiming Stories Therapy, and today I am going to be talking to you about differences in desire. So let's get into it. So when I am saying desire, I am talking about sexual desire, and this comes up very, very often in my work with couples or individuals. That there is some type of mismatched desire, feeling of low desire, or even high desire, and that can create problems in relationships when two or more partners in a relationship have varying desires for sex. So it can create some really hard situations or tension in the relationship when one person really wants to have sex and the other person may not really want to. So let's talk about that. So the way that I'm going to be talking about it comes from this amazing, amazing book called Come As You Are. I'm sorry, my fingers are in the way, by Emily Nagoski. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, it's not even on the front of the book. Emily Nagoski, she's on the back. So again, she's this amazing, amazing researcher. She wrote the book Burnout, that's actually behind me on my shelf. And with her sister, Come As You Are is actually her first book, and then Burnout came out after that. But she has a wealth of knowledge in this book. This is probably one of the number one books that I recommend to most of my clients, that talks about all about anatomy, all about sexual desire, all about context, and it focuses mainly on female sexuality and pleasure, because in general in society, that is not something that we typically talk about. So the part that I'm going to be using from her book is from chapter 7, and it talks about the difference between what is called spontaneous desire and responsive desire. So spontaneous desire is something that we see a lot, usually at the beginning of our relationships, and sometimes more in men than women. I think typically, and this is hard to just generalize because there are plenty of men that have low desire too, but typically we see that men tend to have a little bit more of responsive desire because they are a little bit more visual, and I think tend to maybe, have sex on their brains a little bit more. This also comes into gender roles, that sometimes women tend to carry a little bit more of the emotional load, and kind of management and planning of the household. That's what I hear from a lot of women that feel like, I don't really have time to have sex, and I don't really feel the desire to have sex because of that. So anyway, I'm getting a little off track. Spontaneous desire comes just like it sounds. It just kind of hits you. It's that feeling of like, oh my gosh, I'm horny and I want sex, and it just kind of blows in the wind, hits you, and you're like, I'm ready for this to happen. And I think we see that a lot at the beginning of our relationships more because we got a lot of stuff going on. Our hormones are going. We are kind of in this phase of still getting to know our partners, and everything is a little more exciting and fun. And even in the dating process, if you're not living together, then you don't have a lot of those shared responsibilities yet. So it's really just about getting to see that person and getting to connect with that person, and that creates a lot of desire. So a lot of times in relationships, it's like, well, we had all that spontaneous desire in the beginning, and then somewhere down the line, we kind of diverge into maybe one person having more responsive desire and the other person having still spontaneous desire, or kind of a mixture of both between the two, and maybe they kind of get mismatched. So responsive desire kind of depends a little bit more on context. So context is kind of the context that we set in our environment. So that can be like playing some slow jams, sexy music, putting some candles around in the room, turning the lights down low, wearing some sexy underwear or lingerie, really just setting the tone that this is what I need as a person to kind of bring out my sexuality and get into that headspace to know that, we're leaving all the rest of our responsibilities for the next 30 minutes, hour, 2 hours, however long you have, and allowing that to be the thing that you are entering into, and also trying to get more connected to your body too. And also in context, we want to think about emotional context as well. So what are the things that you need to be feeling towards a partner or in yourself to feel comfortable having sex? Do you feel like you need a little bit of a confidence boost in, wearing your lingerie? Or do you feel like you need your partner to have done some acts of kindness for you throughout the day, or to have helped you, do the dishes, do the laundry, get the kids to bed, or whatever, to be able to kind of feel like, oh, my partner does, love and care about me, and I'm seeing that affection, I'm seeing that effort, and therefore I'm drawn to them and have a desire for them. Do you need, some type of like physical connection before sex, like some back rubs or a full body massage, or neck shoulder massage, or just something that kind of is like, okay, I feel touch, I'm getting my body ready for that, and then I feel calm and present and ready to engage with that. So we want to think of context in both environment and emotional senses to understand, what do you really need to feel comfortable to engage in sex? And so this book, focusing more on women's pleasure, again, broad generalization, definitely not the expectation for every woman. But I see this a lot in women that tend to have more of a responsive desire than spontaneous desire. And I think problems arise a lot when couples think that spontaneous desire is the only type of desire, and that there's something wrong with you if you don't just, magically feel horny at least once a day, or at least a couple times a week, or 3 times a week, or whatever, and want to have sex right then and there. And that also becomes a problem if one person has spontaneous desire and is like, hey, let's go do the thing. And the other person is like, hey, I'm doing the dishes, or I'm doing the laundry, or I'm trying to take care of the kids. And that's like the furthest thing from my mind right now. So I work with couples and individuals to kind of understand this difference and understand what each person needs, regardless of their desire, to kind of set the context for sex. If someone has spontaneous desire, awesome, but they need to also help their partner if their partner has more responsive desire, and to help that context be set so that their spontaneous desire can be met with responsive desire. And also the person that has responsive desire, it's good for them to know that, and to know the context that help them get into the mood and get that energy flowing, so that they can kind of help create that for themselves. Some people, need to do some type of physical activity or something to get themselves in the mood and to kind of connect themselves to their mind, and from mind to body. Some people like to be wined and dined and kind of want, some romance, maybe a little dancing, maybe a little candlelit dinner, some wine. And sometimes I run into partners that maybe have more spontaneous desire feeling like, well, that's just a lot of work. Like, we don't always have time for that. Why does this always have to be the case? And, it's different over time. And I think even people that tend to have spontaneous desire or responsive desire doesn't mean that they don't sometimes have spontaneous desire. And I think the more that they can be met with their responsive desire sometimes elicits more spontaneous desire. Sometimes the more that we engage in that, the more our minds start to think about it and want that again. So maybe you have a couple really good nights where you get wined and dined and feel like, yes, my partner's really getting me, my partner's really understanding what I need, they're engaging me and setting the context and really meeting me where I'm at. And then, maybe a couple of days later, that kind of pings up during their day and it's like, oh, that was really nice. Oh, actually, I'm kind of excited. Oh, actually, I would like to do that again. And maybe they can engage in that a little bit more. So I think this is just a really good way to kind of show the different ways that anybody can have desire, but how sometimes it gets a little gendered just because of how we as humans have been raised in different ways, and that boys are usually raised to think more about that and are praised more for masturbating and kind of engaging in sex, whereas women have historically been shamed around that. And that girls are raised more to be more emotional and kind of take care of people more emotionally and be the caregivers. And so oftentimes in adult relationships, they end up being the ones to take care of the household, kind of plan for what needs to be done, take care of the kids, plan for today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, and sometimes have such a big to-do list that that's like the last thing on their minds and need a little help getting there. So those are kind of the thoughts that I have on desire. And again, just generalizations. That is not to say that men and women are always like that. I have seen it in reverse. Absolutely. I have seen men with low desire and women with high desire. And so it can flip-flop. Either person can have either type of desire, but that is just kind of more typically what we see. So I hope that's helpful. I hope you can take that and maybe look at that in your own life, and also go grab this book on Amazon or wherever you find books, because it's great and it has lots of different like activities and things that you can do in the book that help you understand all the different things that it talks about desire, it talks about some other things that I'll bring into some other videos, a lot about context and finding out what your context is. So it's a great book, highly recommend it. Where can you find me? You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Reclaiming Stories Therapy. My YouTube channel is the Millennial Therapist -RS for Reclaiming Stories. My website is the best way to find me, and that is reclaimingstoriestherapy.com. And if you are struggling with desire, either individually or in a relationship, please contact me and I would love to talk more about this with you. All right, that's it for me today. I hope to see you all in my next video, and I hope you have a great day. Take care. Bye.